So after a rather disappointing end to their dominant season, the Baltimore Ravens are also having a pretty rough start to their offseason. The allegations surrounding one player are somehow getting worse, and another one just got arrested. So let's talk about it right after. All right, we got to talk about this Justin Tucker situation, and really a couple situations from players on the Baltimore Ravens. One is set to be a free agent, but still, the Ravens are having a pretty tough start to their offseason, to say the least. Let's start with the Justin Tucker situation. There was an update over the weekend, and quite frankly, it's getting out of control. If for some reason you live under a rock and aren't aware, 6 different massage therapists initially from 4 different spas in the Baltimore area came forward accusing Tucker of inappropriate sexual behavior during these massages, with all the incidents allegedly taking place between 2012 in 2016. This initial report came out on January 30th, and that same day, Tucker posted a statement on his X account adamantly refuting all the claims, calling it desperate tabloid fodder. Well, a couple days later, on February 1st, 3 more women came forward with accusations of misconduct that occurred during the same time window as the others. Most of these ladies, by the way, had no idea who the others were. They were acting independently, sharing stories on their own behalf. So it started getting a little nuts, and it only seems to have just begun. And in case you're wondering why we're just now finding out about all this 12-ish years later for some of these cases, apparently some of the therapists were simply afraid. They feared they would lose their jobs, and that's why they didn't end up reporting it, due to Tucker being a high-end athlete for the Baltimore Ravens. Well, once all this came out, NFL spokesperson Brian McCarthy, Roger Goodell, and the Ravens have all spoke out or released statements in response to the initial allegations with similar sentiments. Basically, they acknowledge the severity of these accusations and saying they're going to continue to monitor everything going forward. So yeah, things were not looking good for Justin, and after this new update report came out over the weekend, it's not even funny, it's just so insane that sometimes all I can do is chuckle, because that is my nervous reaction to wild stuff like this. The man appears to be absolutely cooked based on this most recent update. The Baltimore Banner, the news website that all these reports have been coming from, released yet another bomb on Saturday with 7 more women accusing Justin Tucker of sexual misconduct. They were all massage therapists in the Baltimore area, and again, the time frame from the accusations match up with them all occurring sometime between 2012 and 2016. Well, that brings the total now up to 16 different therapists from 8 separate spas that have come forward. For what it's worth, Justin Tucker's lawyer provided a sworn declaration from the owner of one of the spas saying that she never got any complaints about him or suspected anything fishy from him. But when you have women from 8 different spas coming forward, I'm not sure how much better 7 looks instead of 8. It's of course important to note that he is innocent until proven guilty. This is all alleged. All of that stuff, okay? I don't want Justin Tucker to pull a Brett Favre on me years later, but as the numbers continue to rise, the harder it's going to be to appear innocent in the court of public opinion, regardless if there's any legal repercussions that come from this or not. This whole situation could get pretty messy, though. There's a few different scenarios we could see play out. I'm far from a lawyer, but from what I understand, the statute of limitations has expired, so no legal action can really be taken against Tucker, but it could turn into a civil court case. Tucker could negotiate settlements with each of them, and they would then sign a confidentiality agreement. That's pretty common in cases like this, and is what happened with Deshaun Watson. He settled over 20 lawsuits against him in the summer of 2022 when he was facing similar allegations. Mike Florio, though, of Pro Football Talk, believes there's a chance that Justin Tucker could fire back with a defamation lawsuit against the Banner, the news site that's been the face of all these accusations. He hired Clark Locke LLP, which is a firm that specializes in defamation cases, so Tucker could very well choose not to settle, fight the allegations, and even sue the Banner. Regardless of how all that plays out, the NFL will conduct their own investigation, as they always do, and they can dish out any kind of punishment they see fit. To go back to the Deshaun Watson case, for example, he never faced any kind of legal repercussion, and he settled outside of court, yet the NFL handed him an 11-game suspension as a punishment. So we could see something similar play out here with Tucker, though I would expect the league is going to sit back and just let the whole thing legally play out first, and then a suspension of some sort is likely coming. The thing is, Justin Tucker is a kicker, not a quarterback like Deshaun Watson that the team traded multiple picks for and signed to a fully guaranteed contract worth $230 million. That's why the Ravens could make the first move here and just flat out release him. There's an out on his contract right now with only $7.5 million in dead money. I mean, that's not pocket change, not great for the team, but it definitely could be worse, i.e. someone who's not a kicker and signed to a much larger deal. Now, wrong is wrong, to be clear. It's just sadly some positions in the league come with a bit more value attached to them. Even if he is one of the best kickers ever, I mean, he literally has the highest field goal percentage of all time, it's one of the most expendable positions on the team and can easily be replaced. On top of that, Tucker is coming off his worst year by far, missing 8 field goals and 2 extra points and finishing with the lowest field goal percentage of his career. And some were even speculating, this is all speculation, but that Tucker was aware of everything going on or the storm that was coming in the background, and that's why his play was so off. Who knows if that was actually related or not, but at this point, I would be pretty surprised if the team didn't end up moving on from him after all is said and done. And sadly, for the Ravens, the offseason drama doesn't end there. It was reported today that offensive lineman Ben Cleveland was arrested on February 12th, so about 5 days ago, for driving under the influence. He reportedly blew a .178, which is more than double the legal limit of .08. That obviously means he had quite a bit to drink, especially when you consider his size. This man is a mammoth lineman, so what would get me to blow that limit? He's going to have to drink like 3 or 4 more times than I would. The Ravens drafted him in the 3rd round back in 2021, and he started in 7 games since then, but was a backup this past season. And he picked a really poor time for all this to go down because his rookie contract just expired at the end of this past season, and he's now a free agent. Well, that could create a bit of difficulty on his free agency stock, and if Baltimore had any plans on bringing him back on a cheap deal for depth, I mean, don't get me wrong, they still could, but they also might say, nah, we have enough PR drama going on right now with the whole Justin Tucker situation, so no thank you. Either way, compared to the Justin Tucker stuff, I'm sure some team out there would be willing to take a flyer on a former 3rd round pick. The stunt did him no favors whatsoever, though, to be clear. The Ravens have enough to worry about this offseason. They're coming off a disappointing end of their season, losing to the Bills in the divisional round in a game that if they didn't turn the ball over however many times, 3 or 4 times, they probably should have won it. Then they have their left tackle, Ronnie Stanley, and left guard, Patrick McCarry, slated to hit free agency. Maybe they work a deal with Ronnie Stanley, maybe even franchise tag him. He's 31 years old, though, and a lot of teams would love his services, maybe even the Kansas City Chiefs, of this offseason. But those are priorities to look at because, as we just saw in the Super Bowl, trenches win championships. Defense wins championships, I don't know, but trenches on both sides of the ball in that Super Bowl dominated. There's nothing more important for the Ravens than protecting Lamar Jackson and setting up the best line possible to continue blocking for Derrick Henry. They have roughly $9 million in available cap space right now, so not a ton, but they'll free some space up for sure, just like the Chiefs or any other team down at the bottom of this list will. And then they also, talking about the Ravens, have 7 picks in this year's draft. So all in all, they're gonna be fine, well-coached, great organization, even without their kicker and backup guard. Finding a replacement for Justin Tucker, though, is definitely going to be easier said than done. Make sure to let me know your thoughts on the future of Justin Tucker in the comments. Do you think he's donezo no matter what, or nah? Even if the Ravens release him, some team will pick him up, but he's for sure not going to be back with the Ravens. Now, if a team does take a chance on Justin Tucker after all this, the question that I have is, are we sure they are ready for the potential media circus that's to follow? Let me know either way in the comments down below, and with that, I'll see y'all next time.